This is a shirt that belonged to my son Scott that I've carried around with me since a little before April of '81 when I had antifreeze put in me in Marietta, Georgia. He should have died, and my apartment, my kids, everything was taken. And I mean, let me just put it this way and go on with this little bit, and I'm going to stop. I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace in '41 and brought to Moulton, Alabama. And I'll say it again, it was a pigsty. It was a hellhole. Any other word for it is the biggest lie there is, almost, except for the one that my father, King Edward VIII, married American spy Wallace Simpson and abdicated and married, who she married, Simpson married, was a double, a look-alike. Now then, my father was married to Claudia Ruth O'Keefe from Madison, Wisconsin, sister to Georgia O'Keefe. Now, I wrote the book, India License to Kill, from 76 to 80 when they put the antifreeze in me. Had a letter from the FBI June the 23rd of 79. And by the way, after this had happened, and I'm trying to work, and I was told not to say anything about the antifreeze, even though I had that report finally and had been through all that. I worked for the DA, and they just told me not to talk about it. Even after all this, in summer of '82, I went to, it would have been probably the 1st October when I went there. I took the book, the 2 letters from the FBI, Agent Guess, and the one from the U.S. Attorney Harper, of an ongoing investigation, national security involved. And all this involves mind control and kidnapping. My kidnapping, and then some of these others that are kidnapped and abducted and murdered. You program people to do it. And that's what I was writing about. And Larry Flint was shot during that time at Lawrenceville, Georgia. And the guy was programmed to shoot and kill him. And he did an article a little later on, helped me out in the campaign in '83. Now, I wanted to get back to this, though. With no money on me, my job shut down again, and I ended up for the 2nd or 3rd time on the streets of D.C. trying to get somebody to listen to me with no money, not knowing my real name then. Maybe it was a good thing, I can just see me going around saying, "Hey, I'm Margaret Ann Windsor. Will you please help me get my name back? I was kidnapped." I didn't find out until '83. And I went to the White House, and I was carrying the book. It was in a satchel. I was carrying the book, copy of the book, the only one that I know. I don't know if any of them exist now, but I took it and logged it in at the executive mailroom post office at the corner. It was at the corner then, would have been on the right. In front of the White House, it would have been in the right corner there. And I remember the Secret Service that was there because his name tag said Sullivan. And I grew up with Philip Sullivan, Philip as in Elizabeth, the illegal monarch husband, who's also a cousin of mine. I hate to say they're related to me now, but anyway, because they were in on my kidnapping. Her father was, and she's continued it. And Kennedy's, Joe Kennedy. So anyway, I left the book there, and you have to log it in at the White House mailroom. It's great big, I'm going to turn around just a minute. It's a huge book. It's got, I'm talking huge. And you have to log in your name and time and all that is put up stamped. Anyway, the person that walked up to me and took it from me, and I had a letter from the FBI as a cover letter and where I'd done the book, rejection slips, and one almost took it, Ravel, I believe it was. But anyway, I had that on the outside so it wouldn't go unnoticed. But he told me I had to log it in, and I looked up at his name tag, and it was President Reagan's older son, adopted son, and I can't remember, he's a talk show host. But anyway, on the way back, I'm walking and begging, trying to get back to Atlanta because I'm shut down. They isolated me, and some things happened to me that were so hideous, and that's where. Well, I'm not going to go into it. The Secret Service were there when at the police department in Marietta when I was simply trying to get my divorce decree enforced so I would have some money to get a room or an apartment or something to get me off the street. Well, when I went in, the inspector, he said, I didn't know they called him inspector, he took me back, and I'm going to run out of time, he took me back to in a room, and he asked me to fill out my name and date of birth and color eyes and hair, and I did. And he asked me, well, the Secret Service came in there too, Tom Call and Phil Cox, if I don't have the Phil Cox, Tom Call reversed. Anyway, Secret Service, and they stood there, and they were nice. But anyway, I got up to leave, and there was no letting me sign anything to get a warrant or whatever it was to be on my ex-husband. By the way, he took my apartment and tried to have me. He was a part of it, giving the antifreeze in me. With some doctors, and Lois Pearson's her name. And I think Pearson's been in the news with the name Gonzalez, who was one of the doctors in the book and one that got sued and a gag order put on it. But he's still in practice, and he put his son through medical school, and he's in practice in Marietta, Atlanta area. So here's what I wanted to say. The Morgan Harrington and Alexis Murphy and Hannah Elizabeth Graham, the last two were students at University of Virginia in Charlottesville, nearby me in Roanoke. But I've already told this because there's a list of these mind control murders that were done in patterns. They're asking today why, on CNN, why did it take 5 years to locate the cab, because they're in Charlottesville, that belonged to Jesse Leroy Matthews, a black man who was working at the University Hospital, I believe, there in Charlottesville. They arrested him for the kidnapping. He's in jail, of Hannah. And then they're tying the cab back to Morgan Harrington's murder. And then the other one is Murphy, but there's Alexis Murphy. But there's a whole list of these that are done in patterns. I've told everybody here. I beat the doors down between here and I can't tell you where I didn't try to stop and turn it over or whatever. But anyway, let me get this. This is where I went to the embassy. Cab that brought me back, Murphy Brothers, Falls Church, Virginia. And this is a cab that took me up there, 61301. Roanoke, Virginia cab that took me up there. So I guess I think I did all. I'll show it again. But this is what's involved in the patterns. And she asked why 5 years. I hope that Hannah's still alive. She's English, as am I, English. But I kind of doubt it now. But I'm hoping that all of this is told, and that's why the 5 years they didn't say they'd found the cab, and they just now found it, they say.